to Game Theory, the show that's always a bloody good time. Today, we have a few massive announcements before we get to the episode, so please skip to here if you're not interested in them, but I don't think you should do that because these aren't things you're going to want to miss. First, and most importantly, mark your calendar. If you don't remember from last year, treats children with now before it grabs you. I'm also really proud of this hoodie I helped to create based off of everyone's favorite low-paying security guard position at your local pizzeria. So may your days be merry and bright, and may your nights be scary and full of fright. Anyway, like I said, links for all of that stuff is down below this video. So, as you might be able to tell, between planning the live stream and working on the merch, there has been a lot going on. And in the middle of it all, more FNAF. FNAF Security Breach got its first trailer out during a PlayStation 5 announcement event, and man, does this new game look incredible.
Gregory, your friends are worried about you.
Long gone are the days of just looking at static-filled still image camera feeds, my friends. And before we move on, can I just say how cool it is to see an indie franchise started by one man working at Dollar General rise to the point that it's now getting a spotlight alongside time-honored franchises like Final Fantasy and God of War. And not only getting spotlight alongside them, getting more views than nearly everything else in that showcase. That's awesome. Well done, Scott. Really, really well deserved. Now, based on the trailer, it looks like we'll be trapped inside of a Freddy Fazbear's Pizzaplex, playing a life-or-death game of hide-and-seek against a killer. And it's that killer, Vanny, that I really want to dive into today. She's teased twice in the trailer, once via a bunny-shaped shadow in the opening sequence, and again as the final jump scare. Now, we've suspected for a while that she's coming, via teaser images on Scott's website, merch leaks, Easter eggs hidden throughout FNAF VR, all things that I've covered before in past theories. But the thing I wanted to look closer at today is her backstory and her relationship to Glitchtrap. Because even though this game hasn't come out yet, and we honestly don't know when it's coming out, we do already know a ton about this new character. In fact, true to Scott's style of storytelling, we probably won't get that much of a backstory for Vanny in this new game. I don't know if you've noticed this about Scott's games, but important story bits tend to happen around the games rather than in the games. Let me explain with an example. In Sister Location, we end with Baby being a part of Ennard, and if you get the super secret ending, you see that she gets puked up into a sewer. Fast forward to FNAF 6, and there's suddenly two separate entities again, Scrap Baby and Molten Freddy. To 99.9% of the players, you would have no idea how or why that would have happened. And I can't blame them, because the only way you would know that Baby got voted out of the Ennard tribe was via the source code on Scott's website, as well as a separate standalone site, FNAFworld.com. Just goes to show that when you're talking about FNAF, the game never really stops. And the thing is, I think Vanny is already getting treated this same way. The information about her, what is now getting her to kill, the big twist reveal about Vanny's true nature has already been laid out for us if you're paying attention to all parts of the FNAF universe. So if, unlike me, you don't have time to keep track of the 12 games, 9 books, dozens of ports, hundreds of toys, and a moon-faced animatronic and a pizza tree, well, that's why I'm here. Because all the pieces are out there in place for us, and now we're going to be putting them back together to understand the true backstory of Vanny, the Killer Bunny, Purple Guy 2.0, before Security Breach comes out. Recently, the game FNAF Help Wanted got itself a mobile port. Big whoop, right? We've already seen this game 2 other times before, once in VR and again in a flat console port. Don't get me wrong, love this game, probably my favorite game of the franchise, but still, Scott, you ain't getting me to buy this for a third time. He totally got me to buy it a third time. So because this is a mobile port, a lot of the game has been stripped away. Gone is the intro sequence, gone are some of the game modes, but most notably gone are the hidden cassette tapes that tell the story of Help Wanted's failed development. Now, if you remember back to a year ago, collecting all 16 of those hidden tapes in the original game inadvertently assembled our latest villain, Glitchtrap, piece by piece. And once fully together, he was able to capture us in the game and presumably escape back out into the real world. that's all gone now in the mobile version. In its place, though, maybe something better. Immediately upon opening up the game, it becomes clear that this mobile port is more broken than FNAF World 1.0. Got textures glitching out in both the main hub and in the various minigames. Now, obviously, these are intentional effects, and by zooming in and tapping on them repeatedly, honestly, I can't say exactly what I did to do it. I just was there a long time pounding away at my screen. The screen eventually fades to black, and suddenly you're presented with everyone's favorite part of the series, an 8-bit minigame with rudimentary gameplay steeped in symbolic lore. Okay, it's actually more like 16-bit at this point, but still. We're told that this game is called Princess Quest, with you playing as a little girl lighting torches to unlock doors and running away from glitching bunny people. Glitching bunnies, you say? After making your way through a ruined castle and cemetery, you eventually unlock a long corridor that leads to a final lantern and, no points if you guessed it, Glitch Trap himself. The screen goes dark and suddenly you're taken back to the game's main hub. Now, this seems fairly self-explanatory, right? It's a reference to Glitch Trap in a game that had to eliminate him due to size constraints. But it's the details here that really matter. Not counting the torches in front of the 6 gravestones, which are very clearly references to the original 5 missing children plus the child who possesses the puppet, there are 16 torches in total for the princess to light. This isn't a coincidence. It perfectly lines up with the 16 cassette tapes that you had to collect in the original Help Wanted in order to release Glitch Trap. In fact, Glitch Trap only appears once the 16th one is lit, further cementing that connection. But where things get really interesting is when you decode what Glitch Trap is saying. As the game ends, there's clearly a dialogue box along the bottom containing weird glitching text, but you'll notice that the patterns aren't random. Some shapes actually repeat themselves. These right here and these right here. It's actually a letter substitution code that spells out everyone's favorite phrase from the game.
I always come back.
And taking it all one step further, we can actually extract the audio from this moment. And do some audio trickery. By doubling the speed and then reversing it, we get this. I always come back, let me out. So in essence, Princess Quest is showing us a recreation of the events from the original Help Wanted. This does a couple of things for us. First, it basically proves 100% that this is, in fact, William Afton's spirit and not some sort of AI or code meant to replicate him. It is him through and through. Dude wasn't lying when he said he always comes back. He's got more lives than Jason Voorhees. He's also got himself a solid understanding of brand consistency. Afton always comes back. Secondly, though, what Princess Quest is doing is confirming for us the origin story of our new killer, Vanny, Vanessa. In the original game, the fate of Tape Girl was unclear because she sometimes encouraged us to collect the tapes and sometimes didn't. But here we get clarity on the whole story. Vanny is the princess with the lantern. She collects all the tapes, pieces, whatever, and gets taken over by Glitch Trap. This all confirms what we were speculating about before with Vanny in a previous theory from a year ago, that a young woman named Vanessa, Vanny for short, would be taken over by Afton to kill in his name, brainwashed or partially controlled by a spirit living inside of her.
Yes, I hear you. I know. No. There's no miscommunication.
There's also a similar conversation currently hidden in the source code of Scott's website, except here you see both sides of the conversation. Stay the course.
I will.
Focus on my voice.
I will.
Don't let anyone lead you astray.
I won't.
Have you selected one?
I have.
The one that seems to be selected is Gregory from the new game's trailer.
Gregory, be still. I think she's found us.
So, is that it? Just a recap of a lot of information we already knew? Are we just left to speculate about the rest until Security Breach finally comes out? Well, no. You see, in the last year, there's been one final source of information about Vanny, and it's a big one. A game that I've largely ignored up until now, FNAF's augmented reality game, Special Delivery. If you haven't heard about this one, basically the concept is that animatronics get shipped to your home so you'll have yourself some new friends. Because let's be honest, fighting for your life against a malfunctioning robot is probably still better than trying to hold a normal conversation with a living, breathing human being. I think I've been damn dancing around this one just because the possible canonicity of characters like Shamrock Freddy, Liberty Chica, and Clown Springtrap makes me have a nervous breakdown. But questionable lore implications of Flamethrower Bear Endo aside, this game has been seeding us more info over the entire last year about the history of Vanny and Glitchtrap, and it requires us to do one of the scariest tasks any FNAF game has ever required: reading emails. You see, the game will occasionally share you on emails that aren't intended for your eyes. On one side, we have ourselves the story of a company working on behalf of Fazbear Entertainment to disassemble old animatronics and scan their circuit boards into their computer system. And, just like Tape Girl warned us about back in FNAF VR, this causes a virus to spread through the system. Quote from those emails, "Turns out that wasn't a glitch. We released a virus when we scanned that last circuit board. It's spreading really fast. We're gonna need all hands on deck." New email. "Hey Jim, just checking in. I emailed you earlier this week about a virus caused by one of your circuit boards, which is currently spreading throughout our system and causing serious problems. Please contact me ASAP. Thanks, best, Steve." So that is our Glitchtrap origin story. And to me, it's especially interesting because I think it helps explain something that dates all the way back to FNAF 3. Recently in the series, we've learned that the FNAF games are canon in the games. Now, that's a really confusing sentence, so let me explain. In both FNAF VR and the Fazbear Frights books, it's confirmed that the urban legends about murders happening at Freddy's restaurants are mainstream enough to have gotten some video game spin-offs. Not necessarily the FNAF games that we know, and certainly not FNAF World, since everyone, including Scott, wants to forget that one, but games inspired by the legends of the pizzeria. In FNAF VR, in fact, we're told that they were made by Fazbear Entertainment as a cover-up.
Fazbear Entertainment hired the game developer. Those indie games were designed to conceal and make light of what happened. This isn't just an attempt to rebrand. It's an elaborate cover-up.
And looking back on it, I believe that we've seen those games. I think we've played those games. They're the 8-bit minigames from FNAF 3, Mangle's Quest, BB's Air Adventure, Chica's Party, and Stage 01. Heck, they might even include the Take Cake, Give Gifts, etc. minigames from FNAF 2. Those are the games being referenced in the games. I mean, they even have those sorts of cheesy titles that would come with cheap Atari-style games of that era. And how do we know all of this, and why am I talking about it now? Because of Glitchtrap. It's easy to forget, but the last minigame that you have to play in FNAF 3 features a glitched-out bunny hopping... I didn't even mean to put the pun there. Hopping between the various minigames. This is the first appearance of Glitchtrap. It's Afton's spirit trapped inside the circuit boards of these retro games looking for an escape. An escape that doesn't actually get realized until he's scanned into a new modern computer system meant to produce FNAF VR. Now, admittedly, this is a bit confusing when it comes to the timeline. We know Freddy Fazbear's Pizza was founded in 1983, as we see from the VR coins in Help Wanted. In FNAF 1, Phone Guy tells us that the animatronics have been around for 20 years. That puts FNAF 1 in 2003, not 1993 like I previously thought. And, based on the official description for FNAF 3, Fazbear's Fright and the discovery of Springtrap all happened 30 years after the closure of Freddy's, making that one roughly 2033. Now, we have no idea when and how Afton got a piece of his soul into the circuit boards, probably via his extreme agony at getting spring-locked. But if this company is literally opening animatronic suits sent from Fazbear Entertainment and scanning the boards as implied by the emails, are we assuming that they opened up the Springtrap suit, completely ignored the dead body inside, and scanned it? Just doesn't seem likely to me. Is Fazbear Entertainment rescuing the board after he was burned to death in FNAF 6? It's just odd. This is why I don't like to talk timeline with this series anymore. To me, the simplest solution here is that William Afton's soul is just in multiple places at once, split like a Harry Potter Horcrux, only instead of swords and scars, he's split between suits and circuit boards. And one of those iterations is Glitchtrap, stuck in the various games' codes until he's eventually released. But reminding all the way back to FNAF Special Delivery, there's a separate and related story happening in the secret inbox between Lewis and his fellow employee, Ness. Ness. Ness as in Vanessa. It's Vanny again, my friends. Here we see a series of emails where Ness is acting weird and Louis the IT guy is honestly acting weirder because he's creeping on Ness. Here's a few highlights from these emails. Hey Ness, it's no big deal, but I wanted to reach out off the radar and remind you about the company policy about personal internet usage. Certain words and phrases trigger red flag reports, so your last order got automatically sent to me. Basically, anything mentioning torture is gonna raise the alarm. If you have any questions about the policy, let me know. We could even get coffee or something and go over all the words to avoid. And now I've raised my own red flag. Good thing I'm the one who gets the notification. Smiley, Louis. Hey Ness, wanted to see if you're doing okay. I appreciate your taking my advice about red flag search terms. If I thought I'd have to file an incident report on you, I think I'd just have to quit instead. I was a little worried. Maybe something is going on with you. One day you're researching flowers and the migration pattern of bees. Fascinating, right? And the next day you type in, how far can a human being be cut in half before losing consciousness? I figured maybe you're writing a screenplay or something. Always here if you need me, Louis. Hey, Ness. So the word compliance by itself isn't going to set off any red flags, but the sentence, how to induce compliance in human subjects and how to induce self-compliance did actually get my attention. I think the answer might involve chocolate chip cookies. Always works for me. I also thought it was strange that these were immediately followed by searches that couldn't possibly have any relevant answers for you. Did you search for help by itself? Anyway, my offer still stands if you want to go over the company policy. I'm free any day after work. We could grab dinner or coffee if you want, Louis. Oh, Louis, when you say stuff like that, it makes me
A sad panda.
But HR violations aside, these conversations tell us a lot about Vanny's mental state. She is sharing control of herself with Glitchtrap. That's why we get references to her searching the internet for help. It's part of her psyche crying out for anything. Anyone who can save her. Anything that'll provide an escape. It's also why it's so important that Louis calls out the searches for inducing compliance in human subjects and inducing self-compliance. That is Glitchtrap, searching for a way to gain complete control over Vanny, over her psyche. This further confirms something that we talked about in my last theory on Vanny. In that episode, we talked about how she's a reluctant follower, that Afton isn't in complete control. On Scott's Voices.com page, where he tends to hire out actors for the various vocal roles in the game, Vanny's listing was for a character named Reluctant Follower. So this woman is clearly a devotee, brainwashed or controlled by Afton to an extent, but a part of her is actively fighting back, hesitant to do what he asks, which makes me think that in Security Breach, we may be able to save or redeem her. In fact, knowing that may help us out with the gameplay. Maybe it's a secret or a true ending condition. That, my friends, is what I believe to be the big twist that awaits us in Security Breach. Wait, as I finish this video, of course, new statues just dropped with important lore reveals, so let's just talk about these real fast. With Gregory hiding inside of Freddy, definitely looks like my idea about gameplay being a version of hide and seek is absolutely confirmed, or maybe Gregory is just piloting an 80s era bear-shaped Gundam suit. Either way, I am totally living for it. As for the other statue that just dropped, looks like Vanny is going to be taking a page out of the Afton playbook, the classic security guard by day and serial killer at night. Old habits die hard, I guess, but in Vanny's case, here's my question. Is she going to remember it? My guess is no. I think it's going to be a classic case of Jekyll and Hyde. But who knows? I guess we're just going to have to wait and see what it is. I hear that some big things are coming to this franchise before the end of the year, and I'm not just talking about all that cool new merch we dropped, which, as one last reminder, is all available right below this video. But hey, that's just a theory. A game theory. Thanks for watching. Ready for a huge special announcement? Me, Markiplier, Doggo, the kings of Five Nights at Freddy's, together in one room against a brand new FNAF game with thousands of dollars at stake, live. Do I have your attention? Great! Because it's happening right here on the channel, December 3rd. Mark your calendars, you're not going to want to miss this. But Why are we doing this, you might ask? Well, every year Steph and I try to do at least one major charity event for a cause that affects all of us here in the theorist community. And last year, with your help, we donated over $200,000, all dedicated to researching better treatments for depression and other mental illnesses. And this year, we're taking on cancer. Specifically childhood cancer, because I think all of us have at least at some point known or lost someone to cancer. And it's without a doubt the scariest diagnosis that a family could possibly receive. And it's especially true now for Steph and I as we have our own kid. Which is why we're especially honored to be partnering with St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, which, if you haven't heard of this incredible organization, is a hospital dedicated to treating children from around the world who've all been diagnosed with cancer and other life-threatening diseases. I'm going to be 33 years old, and I just learned this word. And to think that, like, there's a kid who's 10 years old and wrote this. Heparin? I don't know. Because I don't have to know. It just puts into perspective about how lucky you are. You don't have to know that stuff. But what's truly remarkable about St. Jude is not only are they helping children fight against the scariest diagnosis that you could possibly receive, but no one who's a patient there ever has to pay a single cent for their treatment. That is hundreds of thousands of dollars of medical treatment all happening for free. And their good work doesn't just stop at helping individual families either. They aren't just helping to treat cancer in single patients. They are the foremost leader in researching new ways to stop cancer, to kill it dead, and then spreading that knowledge for free to the rest of the world so that everyone can use that information to try and find better, more effective cures faster. Most other organizations would hide that sort of information. They would guard it and keep it for themselves so that they could make a lot of money off of it. But here's St. Jude, right, who are all about this idea of working together to find a way to kill cancer once and for all. One child treated at St. Jude literally translates to 1,000 more that are treated in hospitals around the world. Long story short, St. Jude is just an incredible organization, which is why throughout the rest of November, we'll be helping to raise money for all the good work that they do, with the big event being held on December 3rd. That's the marathon live stream event in their honor. And that's not just us. That's the Try Guys. It's Odd Ones Out. It's Rosanna Pansino. It's Vsauce 3. It's Miranda Sings and Gerard and Kyle Hill. Nate Wants to Battle, Something Else YT, and so many more. It's crazy. All of these people united together to help support an organization that's trying to kill cancer. And that live stream is going to include giveaways and prizes for all you guys, donation incentives, and get this, probably the most exciting thing of all, the big reveal of a brand new, never-before-seen FNAF game that Scott Cawthon is making specifically for the event. That's not a joke. A true story, I actually emailed Scott because I know that he's a fan of St. Jude as a charity, and I'm like, hey, would you like to donate as a part of our live stream, or do you have something that we could potentially premiere on the live stream as, you know, just an incentive for people to watch? And he told me that he could do me one better, that he could create for us a game that apparently will have dollar amounts hidden throughout it, and that the more we find, the more he ends up donating to St. Jude. So, knowing that this is the game, I assembled the FNAF Dream Team of Dawko and Markiplier to help me out, taking that money out of Scott's pockets and putting it in the hands of people who are working to cure kids and kill cancer. It's gonna be a crazy event, so please mark your calendars, December 3rd, 10 o'clock a.m. California time, and going literally all day here on this channel, on the Game Theorist channel. And if you do want to start donating now to this incredible cause, the link is right here on the video. Yeah. What's that series? How to Make FNAF Not Scary? Well, guess what? You can help make cancer not scary by helping the campaign and donating either today or during that big live stream event. Now, enough with me on the couch. Let's get to the episode.
No one suspects anything. It will be fun.
Hello, Internet. Welcome to Game Theory, where today it's time to meet a new villain, because FNAF's next major killer has a face, a voice, a motive, and we even know their name. So today is actually going to be a big one, my friends. The official game may not be releasing until 2020, but we're already well on our way to understanding where this franchise is headed next. Just as long as Scott doesn't shred it, burn it, mix in another 5 monochromatic characters with frontal lobes bit off dreaming on their deathbeds. You see, over the course of October, we saw the release of FNAF VR Help Wanted's Halloween DLC, The Curse of Dreadbear, which at this point is getting close to like the longest game title in history. And despite the game's repeated insistence that this little fall fest was purely for fun,
keep in mind that this DLC pack is nothing more than a festive holiday-themed add-on, which has absolutely no hidden intent or purpose.
we all know that's a complete lie. One does not simply include casual references to 1983 in a Five Nights at Freddy's game. And when it comes to Easter eggs, I'm not just talking about 1 or 2 things here. Whether it was the FNAF 4 house perched high on a hill in the background, trick-or-treating at an animatronic-filled mansion, inching your way through FNAF 4's haunted hallways, or just taking a Disney ride that suddenly goes off the rails to revisit a familiar-looking pizzeria, Easter eggs were hidden in every pixel of this DLC. Here's a list of a few that were worth calling out, but don't merit a full-fledged theory. First, the masks that you wear for the trick-or-treat minigame are most likely the real-world versions of the masks that we see the bullies wearing during the Five Nights at Freddy's 4 bite. This reinforces the idea that in the grand timeline of events, Freddy Fazbear's Pizza was popular enough as a franchise by 1983 to have its own line of Halloween masks. In other words, it's more evidence to suggest that this location that we see in FNAF 4 isn't the first pizzeria. It's not the beginning of the timeline. Point number 2, when you win a minigame, you see posters randomly generated around the walls. The thing is, all of these posters have appeared in a previous game, FNAF 6 Pizzeria Simulator. They appear in the alleyways where the salvage animatronics can be found. Man-Wolf clown pictures referencing Baby, and Spookfest. What's particularly interesting, though, is that Spookfest one, which could in fact be referring to the exact fall festival that we're attending. That poster in particular always felt like a random addition to those alleyway scenes, and as we know, Scott don't do coincidences. It's also worth noting that I've seen one playthrough from the channel Johnny Blocks that had 3 clown pictures appear on the walls. After throwing a dart at each one, the barn suddenly switched over to rave mode. Black lights on for the party, becoming possessed by Golden Freddy. We can tell that as evidenced by the Disney banner hanging over the top of the barn. Now, I can't confirm whether this is real, because he's the only playthrough I've seen been able to do this, and also spawning 3 clown pictures randomly is just seemingly impossible odds. And also, it strikes me as weird because from a lore perspective, Golden Freddy at this point should be hanging out in the afterlife with our dearly departed William Afton. But still, it is something that's definitely worth calling out, and if any of you out there have a means of testing it, go forth and double check it. And lastly, during the game over screen, you see a giant dread bear looming over top of the hillside covered in gravestones. On top of the hill, you can make out what appears to be some sort of purple glitch. By hacking outside the bounds of the game, just like the channel Kuno Leo did, you can see that it's indeed a glitching gravestone, surrounded on all sides by 7 normal-looking gravestones. Now, 6 gravestones would seem to be a reference to Pizzeria Simulator's gravestone ending, symbolic of the 5 murdered children during the missing children's incident, as well as Charlie, the girl who dies and goes on to possess the puppet. In short, William Afton's 6 victims. But then, what's a 7th gravestone doing there? Well, in my estimation, that one would seem to belong to Michael Afton, his son and his final and unintentional victim. Which would suggest that the glitching gravestone is William Afton's grave. It's got the purple color, it's got itself the glitch, which clearly ties it to Glitch Trap, but further cementing this is the texture that you see running along the grave, which, while hard to make out, clearly has rabbit ears. But it's the last and hardest to achieve Easter egg that I want to focus on today. The one that reveals our new killer and starts setting up the story that we'll be watching play out over the next few years of games. You see, William Afton has started himself a cult. Let's call it the Cult of Glitch Trap. And it's going to be our job to rescue the people who've fallen under his spell. Now, if you've been watching over the last few FNAF episodes, I've been talking a lot about how FNAF VR Help Wanted is a passing of the torch, a sort of reboot for the series, an ushering in of the next generation of stories that this franchise wants to tell. Stories that, yes, still come from the series' murdery past, but also move beyond it, beyond the timelines, beyond all its baggage, now with new faces and new murder to be done. And the Curse of Dreadbear DLC confirms that theory. Yeah, ring the bell, my my friends, that's right, I got a FNAF theory correct. The largest, longest, and quite frankly hardest minigame of the DLC pack is called Corn Maze, which has Dayglow Foxy hunting you down as you search for keys in an abandoned maze filled with what are truly the scariest part of the game, really loud crows. Oh god! Whoa, what the heck was that? Oh my lordy! Sure, you can find one key and escape, but if you manage to survive to find all 4 keys, suddenly a 5th key spawns in the arena, purple and glitching, which should already cue you in on what's coming. This 5th key unlocks a cellar located at the middle of the maze, one that resembles our prize barn, except now it's all torn up, looking like it's been slowly laid to waste with time. But there's a sinister gift waiting for us on the table, a white bunny mask with a fleshy, almost bloody interior. We put it on and our breathing slows. We calm down. Our character is suddenly at peace. But there's more. Back in the prize counter, we suddenly have the option of wearing the mask again. Putting just the mask on doesn't do anything except obstruct your vision because masks suck. But if you put it on while holding Glitch Trap, suddenly someone, a woman, starts to speak.
Yes, I hear you. I know. No, there's no miscommunication. I understand. Yes, I have it. I made it myself. I think you would like it. No one suspects anything. Don't worry. I'll be ready, and I won't let you down. It will be fun.
A woman having a sinister one-way conversation with someone. Or something. I don't think I need to spell this one out for you, right? She is clearly talking to William. Glitch Trap. The fact that this conversation requires you to be wearing the mask, which represents her, and holding the rabbit, which represents him, seems to be all the proof that we would need. But now let's look at specifically what they're saying. Based on her saying things like, yes, I have it, I made it myself, you would like it, she seems to be referring to the bunny mask. That is her creation. The voice, William, clearly dictated to her that she needed to create some sort of bunny mask to carry on his tradition of Lapin-themed murder. The line, no one suspects anything, clearly seems to indicate that she's been hiding in plain sight, much like a pizzeria's security guard who's planning to kidnap kids. Or, as I brought up in a previous theory, a game tester who's suddenly been brainwashed by a rogue piece of malware. Which leads us to the other lines about there being no miscommunication, being ready, and not letting him down. Those all seem to indicate that William senses hesitation or fear in the woman about fulfilling on his plan. This is reinforced by the name of this voiced character. On Scott's Voices.com page, where he tends to hire out actors for their various roles in the game, the listing was named Reluctant Follower. So this woman is clearly a devotee of Afton, but she's hesitant. I mean, going so far as to actually kidnap kids and, turn them into remnant soup or something is a lot to ask of anyone, honestly. It's also important to note here that the word reluctant doesn't necessarily mean unwilling. I mean, it can, certainly, but in this case, it seems like she's trying to please her master, William Afton, saying things like, I think you would like it, and convincing herself that this will be fun. It's not that William has control over her body and is forcing her to do things, she's just nervous to take that final leap. What this all tells us is that William has been successful in what Tape Girl warned us about. That FNAF VR is a Trojan horse. It's carrying the virus that is William Afton. Now, whether that's him as code or AI or it's just his spirit being passed along isn't really important. What matters is that he's suddenly able to enter the minds of its testers. It's why we hear the story of Jeremy throughout those FNAF VR tapes. A man who went crazy and ultimately sliced off his own face. He was probably starting to slip under the control of Glitch Trap, but tried his best to fight back in whatever way he could. That's also why every ending of that game is a bad one. The fact that we need the green bunny to hear this dialogue confirms that all those vague cutscenes at the end of the game are of him escaping. Because without the tapes, Glitch Trap is still disassembled in the game, and this dialogue of a brainwashed devotee isn't possible. But what we're also learning here is that while Glitch Trap is able to invade the mind of a person, he can't fully possess their body. He's limited to only being a voice inside their head. He has to convince them to do his bidding and continue to push them to fulfill their mission. Mask Girl is scared, she's hesitant, she's reluctant, and must be cajoled into acting on William's wishes. She's slowly descending into madness. And wait a minute, why does that sound so familiar? Oh yeah, because it's one of the upcoming projects that Scott's been teasing for the better part of the last year. It's a pretty accurate title for a game where your villain starts as a normal game protester, but then is forced to listen to the voice in her head telling her to kill. It's also worth noting that there's a similar conversation currently hidden in the source code of Scott's website, except here we actually see both sides of the conversation.
Stay the course.
I will.
Focus on my voice.
I will.
Don't let anyone lead you astray.
I won't.
Have you selected one?
I have.
That line of "don't let anyone lead you astray" really stands out. Again, reinforcing this idea that the followers aren't fully under Afton's control, that they can be swayed or saved in some way, just like people in a real cult. It looks like we might be able to save these innocents from Afton's grasp before they commit any sorts of crime this time. And where will those crimes be happening? Well, a few weeks ago, this was the image on Scott's website. Just more cool 80s-tastic FNAF teasers for the new game that's coming out in 2020. But when the full Dreadbear DLC was released, the image got altered slightly to this. Notice those floppy ears? Looks like our new killer might be on the hunt in the mall. Looks like 2020 found itself a new female FNAF killer. And if she's truly working undercover with no one suspecting anything, clearly she must be a mall cop. Segueing to a murder scene near Spencer's Gifts. And I would end it there, except we can also figure out her name. Brightening images, digging through source code. That is so FNAF 1.0. At this point, the series is 5 years old. It's matured, and the fan base has matured. And the way that we're able, and perhaps even expected, to dig for clues has gotten significantly more advanced. It's like an arms race. Scott finds a new way to hide clues, one person in the community breaks the code, and suddenly it's in our tool belt. Next time he releases something, boom, we immediately whip that tool out. That sounded wrong. Maybe let's not whip out our tools and instead smartly and respectfully remove that tool from our tool belt and apply it to the problem at hand. Let me give you an example of this. Brightening images. The first 1 or 2 times Scott did this, it was completely unique. No developer had ever really done anything like that before, and as a result, it took a little while to discover his hidden messages. But after 1 or 2 times, now we know it's a trick he can use, so no one even bothers to look at the image itself. It's just straight into those contrast sliders. The same thing with looking at source code, the same thing with digging through game files, and on, with each one slightly more complicated than the last. And now we've unlocked ourselves a brand new clue-finding technique. In the source code for Scott's site, the shadow image and its previous form were both named the same thing, 7_1. FNAF 7 Teaser 1, nothing too exciting there. But that's only the name that Scott wants us to see. You see, I learned a lot from making an ARG over the last year, and one of the biggest tricks was that images can be opened as text files using a program like Notepad, and that the text often reveals a lot of secrets about the history of a given image. Like here, if I open up a JPEG of one of our Minecraft thumbnails, you can see that it was saved using Adobe Photoshop, even down to the specific version. You can even see that there are some text layers here, and what those text layers are called, labeled title, hardwood, and ouchie tree. We're very creative with our layer titles. Anyway, if you open up the first of these 2 Scott Games image files on the site, you see that even though it's called 7_1 in the source code, its original file name was Glamrock Fred Poster. Very cool, eat your heart out Stranger Things in American Horror Story. It's FNAF's turn to revisit the era of big hair and even bigger shoulder pads. So, we know in 2020, in this new game, we're going to be introduced to the glam rock animatronics. Very cool, gnarly, totally tubular. No, that was a 90s thing. Wicked? Wicked, I think, was an 80s thing. Anyway, if you open up the new version of the image, the one with the rabbit shadow, we see that the true name of the file has been changed. It's no longer Glamrock Fred Poster. It now reads Shadow of Vanny. So, it would seem that Vanny is the new name of our killer? It's an odd one to be sure, but I honestly don't think that's it. I actually think it's probably a combination of her real name, Vanessa, and her mask. The White Rabbit, or Bunny, Vanessa Bunny, Vanny. Just like Will Trap and Mike Bot and all the other weird ship names we have in this franchise. Oh, yeah. Every time. So there you have it, my friends. Preview of the coming events in the FNAF franchise. It's the story of Vanny, Vanessa Bunny, a normal person driven into madness by the voice of William Afton talking to her in her head to go out and kill people. She might be the only one right now, but there could be hundreds out there. A cult of Glitchtrap, if you will, following in his bunny toad footsteps. And we know that this is the case based on the fact that Glitchtrap is still seen dancing in the background of that DLC. He is now apparently able to copy himself. It's worth noting that that's an Easter egg that was left in, actually overwriting an oversized Dreadbear. So you know that this one's intentional, right? It says that Glitchtrap is a copy, and that he's able to copy himself over and over and over again. The cult of Glitchtrap spreads. Now we just have to wait for the next sign of that killer to strike. Maybe it's in the new book series that starts coming out in December. Maybe it's in that new game that Scott's sending us on December 3rd for our big St. Jude charity live stream. Who knows? But in the meantime, stay vigilant, my friends. And remember, it's all just a theory. A game theory. Thanks for watching. Done.